C'est une grande joie pour moi d'être avec vous
It's a great joy for me to be here with you,
et de pouvoir partager ce temps et ce moment.
to be able to share this time with you all.
Avec Gianni, on a vu que pour ce soir, c'était vraiment ce qui forme un petit peu le noyau de la Keila.
So with Gianni, when we prepare this event, we consider that those who will be present this evening from the Keilah of Beit Tikkun are those who are really part of the heart of the Keilah.
Et c'est important dans l'étape que vous devez suivre maintenant par rapport à demain.
And this is also a very important step for tomorrow.
Oh, you will think. You feel really okay. Really sweet.
Non, vas-y.
Yeah.
Et j'aimerais particulièrement partager avec vous
I would like to share with you
un cheminement que j'ai dû vivre.
what I had to went through in my life.
Et maintenant, ça fera 45 ans
And now it's around 45 years. that
que
this had happened.
le Messie est venu bouleverser ma vie.
So the Messiah came to change my life completely 45 years ago.
Et a complètement transformé ma vie.
And it completely transformed my life.
Et je dois dire que ça a tout changé concernant mon futur.
And I have to say that this changed completely my future.
Alors, je ne vais pas trop m'étendre sur ce que j'ai été,
I'm not going to go into detail regarding what I was before that,
mais dans un premier temps, ce qu'il est important de savoir,
but in first step, there's one thing that is very important to know.
c'est que toute ma lignée est juive
All my ancestry is Jewish,
et remonte à très loin.
and also from far.
Et c'est très important de connaître l'histoire des pères,
And I think it's very important to know the history of the fathers,
car ils nous tracent déjà un petit peu ce que nous serons.
because in a certain way, the fathers will create a way of what we will become.
Alors, je suis d'origine séfarade.
I'm more from a Sephardic background,
Et je suis né en Algérie.
I was born in Algeria.
Mon père, pendant la guerre d'Algérie, a été assassiné.
And my father got killed during the war that took place in Algeria.
Alors que j'avais 18 mois.
I was only 18 months old.
C'était en 1960.
That was in 1960.
C'était les moments très forts de la guerre d'Algérie.
That was the very hard times, the hardest time of the war that took place in Algeria.
Et nous avons dû rentrer en France.
And because of that situation with my family, we had to go back to France.
Ma mère est arrivée avec mon frère en pratiquement 62.
So around 1962, my mother, along with my brother and me, we got back to France.
C'est un peu le contexte dans lequel j'ai vécu mon enfance.
So this is just to give you the context, the environment where I grew up.
J'ai suivi au travers de mon oncle un certain nombre d'études, tant qu'il le pouvait avant qu'il ne fasse son alia en Israël.
And with my uncle, I could follow some studies before he went to Israel before he made Aliyah to Israel.
Il m'a éduqué à ce niveau-là
He gave me some teachings regarding this aspect.
et il m'a suivi jusqu'à ma bar mitzvah.
And he followed me. He was like my teacher till my bar mitzvah.
Après ma bar mitzvah,
And after the bar mitzvah,
là, ma vie, elle a pris un autre sens.
then my life took another direction.
Le côté religieux me touchait,
I was touched by the religious aspect,
mais il n'avait aucun impact en moi,
but this
profond.
religion aspect does not have any deep impact on my life.
On était dans un endroit où il n'y avait pas de synagogue, où il n'y avait pas de juifs, il n'y avait rien.
We were in a place where there's we were in a place where there's no Jewish community, there was no synagogue.
Et ma mère nous disait, à partir d'un moment, il ne fallait plus dire que l'on était juif.
And my mom used to be saying that from now on you should not mention that you are Jew.
Et je me posais la question, pourquoi on doit cacher cette identité juive?
And at that time I was wondering, why should I need to hide this Jewish identity?
Il y avait quand même beaucoup d'antisémitisme.
It's true that the anti-Semitism was quite high at that time as
On
well.
nous disait toujours ça, juif.
We were always receiving insults from people saying that we are like bad or evil Jews.
On était toujours un peu à part.
And we were always like, not in the society, but like a part of the society.
Ce qui a commencé à amener en moi une rage.
And this created a kind of rage inside of me.
Et c'est là que je me suis lancé dans un monde de délinquance et de violence.
And that's where I started to be more in the world of gangs and violence.
Et quand la haine nous prend, elle augmente en nous.
And you know, when you are stricken by the hatred,
Elle ne
this
diminue pas.
hatred will grow inside of you. It's not going to diminish, but it's going
C'est
to
un
grow.
engrenage.
And it's going to grow.
On
Not
va toujours plus loin.
it will go beyond.
Et il arrive des moments où on se pose vraiment des questions.
And at some point, we may ask questions.
Alors je vais assez vite parce que je ne veux pas détailler.
I don't want to give all the details.
Entre-temps, ma mère a connu Paul Guénassia, celui qui m'a précédé au centre messianique à Paris.
And during this period of time, where I was getting involved in gangs and everything, my mom at the same time got to know Paul Guénassia, who was the founder of the Keilah in Paris, the one who was before me. So my mom got to know him at that time.
Et au travers de sa sœur, elle a fait un cheminement.
And this is through the sister of my mother.
Et elle a vraiment adhéré au Messie.
And through that, my mom really recognized the Messiah, and she was really believing in the Messiah, truly.
C'était vraiment une femme de prière et de Torah.
I can say that my mom was really a woman of prayer and a woman of Torah.
Et elle a, sur certains domaines, beaucoup influencé ma vie.
And I can say that in some points she really had a huge impact upon my life.
Et à un moment donné, on se trouve dans des carrefours.
And you know, sometimes we arrived at a crossroad.
Ma mère me disait, il faut que tu viennes au Messie.
And I remember my mom used to be telling me that Emmanuel, you need to come to the Messiah.
Je lui ai dit, non, je suis juif, moi je veux pas aller vers Jésus, Yeshua, là, ça m'intéresse pas.
And at that time, I said to mom, no, I'm not interested in this Jesus. I am a Jew, and I don't want to live my Jewishness.
Simplement, je sombrais de plus en plus dans le noir et la violence.
But remember that at the same time, I was getting even more involved in the gangs environment and all this violence environment.
J'étais très connu des services de police.
And unfortunately, I was well known by the police.
Et à un moment donné, on se pose quand même un certain nombre de questions sur l'avenir.
And sometimes, you know, when you are in such situation, you wonder about your life, what your future will look like.
Et ma mère priait beaucoup.
And I know that at that time, my mom prayed a lot.
Ça a duré quelques années.
And this lasted for a few years.
Mais toujours, elle me parlait du Messie.
But she was really always talking to me about the Messiah.
Et je respectais, mais je ne voulais pas.
It's true that I had a respect for what she was saying and for this faith, but I didn't want to follow it at that time.
Alors, je vais vous poser une question. Qu'est-ce qui peut nous arriver quand on en est là?
So let me ask you a question. What can happen to us when we reach such a point where we don't know about the future, we don't know about our destiny, let's say? What can happen to us?
À ce moment-là, j'avais 21 ans.
I was 21 at that time.
Et je disais, ma vie est fichue.
I said, oh, my life is over.
Il n'y a plus rien qui m'attend.
My life is like a mess and there's nothing waiting for me.
J'avais deux solutions.
Two solutions were in front of me.
La première, c'était la police qui allait pouvoir clôturer les dossiers.
The first one was either the police would have a chance to arrest me and put me in jail and close all the files that were open about me.
Ou alors, il y avait beaucoup de personnes qui m'auraient réglé mon compte.
Or the second option, as I mentioned, I was involved in the gangs and the violence. Maybe there are some people from other gangs who would try to kill me and take revenge over me.
On est sans cesse sur le qui-vive.
You know, when you live in such a situation, you are always on alert.
Et à ce moment-là, voilà, ça c'était les deux solutions que j'envisageais.
And that was the two solutions that were in front of me at that time.
Et au travers de cela, je me suis dit, ça vaut pas le coup de vivre, il n'y a pas d'avenir, il n'y a pas de futur, il n'y a rien.
And when I considered these two options, I said to myself, there's no point of living, there's no future, there's nothing for me.
Alors j'ai préparé une tentative de suicide.
So I tried to commit suicide.
En voulant me jeter sous les rails d'un RER sur la banlieue parisienne un dimanche.
So a Sunday morning, I went to a train station and I wanted to just jump into the rail right before the coming of the train, just to commit suicide.
Il faut dire que j'étais dans un état de tristesse profonde. Franchement, je voulais plus de la vie.
And what you need to understand is that at that time I was in a very deep, deep sorrow and I didn't want to live anymore.
Et au moment où j'ai voulu me jeter sous les rails du RER,
and I remember that the moment I wanted to jump as the train was approaching, the moment I wanted to jump,
alors que c'était très tôt le matin,
as I mentioned, it was a Sunday morning, very early in the morning, I felt that there was like a hand behind me that pulled me back.
Et quand je me suis retourné pour frapper,
and because someone was just, I felt that there was a hand and I thought it was someone, I was ready to hit the person who just touched me.
Il n'y avait personne.
There was no one.
À moins de 5-6 mètres.
All the persons that were in the station, they were really far.
J'ai rien compris.
I did not understand anything.
J'ai même pas réalisé.
I did not realize anything.
Et les portes du métro s'ouvrent juste en face de moi.
And then the doors of the train were just opened in front of me because, as I mentioned, the train was arriving.
Et là, je suis rentré.
And I get inside the train.
Et je suis allé chez ma mère.
What did I do? I went to see my mom.
Ma mère, quand elle m'a vu arriver,
when mom saw me,
elle m'a dit, qu'est-ce qui t'arrive?
She asked me, oh, what's wrong with you?
Mais elle devait aller à la Keila de Paul Genasia.
And she was about to go to the Keila of Paul Genasia.
Et elle m'a laissé tout seul.
And she left me all alone in the house.
Alors, j'ai mis la chaîne IFI, là, les cassettes.
I put the audio player on.
Et il y avait un chant.
And you know, at that time it was K7 format. It was not like digital. And there was a song that was playing.
Qui disait, vers qui se tournait quand la source des larmes est tarie, vers qui se tournait quand la mort semble plus douce que la vie.
To whom should I turn to when death seems to be sweeter than life?
Et c'est là que j'ai repensé qu'il y avait le Messie de ma mère.
And at that moment,
une assemblée.
I remembered all the words that my mom used to be telling me about the Messiah, about also the Keila.
J'avais déjà été là-bas.
It's true that I had got there before.
J'étais travaillé, mais je voulais garder ma vie.
It's true that I was touched when I went there before all of those things, but I wanted to keep my own life.
Et donc, à ce moment-là, j'ai été dans ce lieu.
So after listening to this song, so I just went to the Keilah, to that place.
Mais pas dans le but de croire en Yeshua ou en Jésus,
But my intent was not to believe in Yeshua or Jesus,
plutôt d'être entouré avec des gens,
because
avoir du monde.
at that time, as I was feeling all alone, I just wanted to go there to be surrounded by people.
Et à la fin, Paul Genassia a fait un appel.
And I remember at the end of the service, Paul Genassia just make a call. He called people to come forward.
Et moi, j'ai dit non, moi, je ne vais pas là-bas.
I said, no, I'm not going to.
Non.
I'm not going to go to the front.
Et je ne sais pas si j'étais vraiment le dernier, mais en tout cas, je me suis trouvé en face de lui.
I don't know whether I was the last one in the meeting hall, but
Et comme il me connaissait bien,
I remember that at the end I was in front of him, and as he knew me very well,
devant tout le monde,
in front of everybody,
ce qui était une honte pour moi,
something that was really a shame.
il me prend les mains.
He took my hands this way.
Il me dit, Emmanuel, est-ce que tu veux la victoire?
He told me, Emmanuel, do you want the victory?
Je ne savais pas ce qu'il voulait dire parce que c'était pas mon langage.
I didn't know what he meant by that because this was not my language.
Mais je savais que tout le monde me regardait.
But I knew that at that moment everyone was looking
Alors
at
j'ai
me.
dit oui.
So
Comme
just
ça,
to
il va vite,
pretend, I just say yes, so that he may just go and talk to someone else.
Et cet homme, quand il a prié pour moi,
And I remember that this man, when he prayed for me,
je ne sais pas si lui, il a vraiment ressenti quelque chose.
I don't know whether he really felt something at that time when
Mais
he
à ce
prayed.
moment-là,
But
précis,
at that moment,
j'ai senti deux mains se poser sur moi
at that very moment, I felt like two hands that was laying on me
et retirer un vêtement sale.
and removing a filthy clothes,
C'était tellement noir
something that was really black, really dirty,
que j'ai tourné la tête.
that I just turned my head.
Et d'un seul coup, quelque chose s'est produit en moi.
Then all of a sudden, something happened inside of me.
J'ai ressenti une vraie paix.
And that's when I really felt a real peace, a true peace.
Pour avoir la paix, je buvais des litres d'alcool.
It's true, at that time, I used to be drinking a lot of alcohol to feel a kind of peace inside of me.
Je tapais dans les panneaux,
I was breaking everything around me.
je donnais des coups de tête dans les murs et les miroirs.
I was giving also how do you call it? Headshot to everything, even in the mirror, just to break everything,
Pour me calmer.
just to calm me down.
Quand j'ai ressenti ça,
At the moment he prayed for me and I felt this real peace,
par rapport à des années en arrière,
and when I consider the previous years of my life at that time,
j'étais assis
I was seated
et j'ai dit, qu'est-ce qui m'arrive?
and I was like, what's going on?
Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
What's going on?
Et à partir de ce jour-là, j'ai compris ce qu'était le pardon.
And from that day onwards, I understood the real meaning of forgiveness.
La police ne te pardonne pas.
You know, the police doesn't forgive.
Les autres non plus.
Other people in general don't forgive.
Et Dieu te pardonne.
But God truly forgives.
Et cette rencontre avec l'amour du Messie a transformé ma vie.
And this meeting with the Messiah
D'une
really
manière très
transformed my
profonde.
life in a very deep way.
Elle a impacté ma vie totalement.
It truly impacted my life.
Et je peux dire, c'est là que ma vie a vraiment commencé.
And I can say that this was the true beginning of my life.
Une autre vie.
A new life, another life.
Une vie que je n'avais jamais envisagée.
A life, that I did not prepare because that was not my plan.
Une vie à laquelle je ne pensais pas du tout.
A life that I've never dreamed about or thought about.
Et je me suis trouvé confronté à un autre monde.
And now I was in front of another world.
Et un monde chrétien que je ne connaissais pas du tout parce que je ne suis pas né dedans.
A world that was more Christian world, and I was not familiar with this world because I was not born Christian.
Et tout de suite, on me disait, maintenant, tu n'es plus juif, tu es chrétien.
And then started the following saying where people told me, oh, now you're a Christian, you are no longer a Jew.
Tu n'as pas besoin de lire le Talmud et autres.
You don't need to read the Talmud and all the other literature.
Et je ne comprenais pas pourquoi on me disait ça. Moi, je suis toujours juif.
But I did not understand that at that time because
Qu'est-ce qu'il me raconte?
I was wondering, I'm still
Et il
Jewish.
parlait un langage que je ne comprenais pas
And
du tout.
also they used to use a language that was really a foreign language to me.
Alors, j'ai décidé de faire 5 ans de théologie.
So then, because of that, I decided to went to a Christian seminary for 5 years.
Au début, je ne voulais pas faire 5 ans,
At the beginning, I didn't want to go there for 5 years,
mais j'ai voulu quand même finir le cycle.
but I wanted to go till the end of the program, to the end of the cycle.
Pour comprendre qu'est-ce que le christianisme,
Because I wanted to understand the real meaning of Christianity,
sa pensée, comment il s'est construit.
to understand how Christianity came about and how it was created and what is the real mind behind Christianity.
Quelle a été la cause de séparation entre le judaïsme, Israël et le christianisme.
And also I wanted to understand the real origin and the reason why there was a separation between Israel, between Judaism and between Christianity.
Et pourquoi il y avait toujours ce côté triomphant.
And why there was always a kind of triumphant spirit inside Christianity,
Supérieur.
a kind of superior, where people think they are superior to Israel or to the Jewish people.
Et l'image qu'il y avait par rapport aux Juifs était celle de ceux qui étaient déchus du plan de Dieu.
And the image that people had at that time regarding the Jewish people, they considered the Jewish people as a fallen people.
Et j'ai compris que là, il y avait quelque chose qui ne tournait pas rond.
And from there, I understand that there was something that was wrong in this.
Et donc, quand j'ai fini mes 5 ans d'études,
So after this Christian seminary,
même si je n'avais pas tout compris dans les fonctionnements,
it's true that I did not have the full understanding at that time.
j'envisageais de me marier.
So I had the plan to get married.
Et je me suis retrouvé en Suisse où j'ai repris une activité professionnelle où je gagnais beaucoup d'argent.
And at that time also, I was in Switzerland. I had also a job where I was well paid.
Et à un moment donné, j'ai été demandé pour devenir pasteur stagiaire.
And then I was asked to become a assistant pastor, so to speak, in a church.
Et je ne savais pas ce qu'était une assemblée comme cela, à part celle de Paul Guénasser, mais qui était quand même différente.
And at that time, I didn't have a full understanding of what is a church, because what I knew only at the time was the Keilah of Paul Guénassia.
Et je ne comprenais rien.
And I did not understand anything.
Et il y avait des choses qui étaient incohérentes
And there are things that was not really coherent.
dans les relations à l'intérieur des comités.
Inside the boards of inside the churches,
Ils parlent tous d'amour,
they all talk about love,
mais ils se font tous la guerre.
but they're all making a war, one against the other.
Et en tant que stagiaire, on me disait, tu te tais.
And at that time I was an intern, I was told not to say
Et
anything.
j'ai vu beaucoup de choses dans les coulisses parce que j'étais dans un très grand mouvement.
And it's true that at that time as an intern I saw many things behind the scenes because I was part of the really great movement.
À l'époque, j'avais 450 membres,
It was a great organization, and at that time in this church
un immense groupe de jeunes.
I had around 450 members with a huge group of youth,
Immense chorale.
with a huge choir.
Et j'étais pas heureux là-dedans parce que je me disais, mais ils vont où?
But deep inside of me, I was not really happy
Ils
because
vont où?
I was wondering where these people are going.
Ils parlent tout le temps de réveil,
They are always talking about revival,
de puissance.
about power,
Et j'ai jamais vu autant de gens aller mal dans les assemblées.
But at the same
Dans
time,
les assemblées.
many people inside these congregations were really sick inwardly.
Et j'ai fait cela pendant 10 ans. Alors j'ai appris, bien entendu.
So I pastored a church for 10 years, and it's true that I learned many things during these 10 years.
Pourquoi vous ai-je dit ça?
Why did I mention this thing to you?
Parce que ça me permet de mieux comprendre ceux qui viennent d'un arrière-plan chrétien
Because this also gives me the opportunity to have a better understanding of those coming out of Christianity
et qui veulent se greffer sur l'olivier.
and those who want to be grafted into
Ils
the
rencontrent
olive
aussi
tree.
des problèmes et des difficultés.
And also those who want to be grafted in and also are facing
Il y
problems
a
and
beaucoup de
difficulties.
difficultés.
There are many difficulties and problems.
C'est pas quelque chose de spontané qui va très rapidement.
It's not something spontaneous that can arrive all of a sudden.
Et il y a beaucoup de questions, beaucoup d'oppositions, et Paul a dit, et un tel a dit, et puis pourquoi on doit faire le Shabbat, et pourquoi on doit entrer dans les fêtes. Beaucoup de questions comme ça.
There are many questions where people are facing opposition and difficulties, and people are saying, "Oh, Paul said that. The other people said that. Do we have to keep the Shabbat? Do we have to keep the feast?" And all those
Il a
things.
tout accompli,
And some people will say, "Oh, he has fulfilled everything.
c'est terminé,
It's over now.
tout est bien,
Everything is good.
on n'a plus rien à
We
faire,
don't have to do anything.
on n'a qu'à prier et lire la Bible.
You just need to read the Bible and pray."
Et à un moment donné, on m'a même dit, parce que je parlais beaucoup sur la Torah,
And I remember that at that time, as I used to be talking a lot about the Torah and those things.
et on m'a même dit à un moment donné,
At some point,
arrête de parler trop de l'Ancien Testament.
at that time, that I was told by the elders, stop talking about the Old Testament. You are always talking about the Old Testament.
Ce que les gens veulent, c'est que tu parles du Nouveau Testament.
And they told me, you know, people want you to talk about the New Testament.
J'ai dit, mais il est facile à comprendre le Nouveau.
And then I answered, I said, oh, the New Testament is easy to understand,
C'est l'Ancien qui est le socle.
but the foundation is the Old Testament.
Mais on m'a quand même conseillé d'arrêter de trop parler.
So when I was pastoring this church, so the elders told me, no, you don't need to stop talking a lot about the Old Testament.
Alors voilà comment Dieu nous ramène aux racines.
You know, that's how God brings us back to the roots.
On avait quand même, et ma femme pourrait le dire, on avait du succès.
And my wife could testify about this. We had a lot of success back at that time in Switzerland.
Je ne voyais pas mon avenir dedans dans le long terme.
But in the long term, I did not see myself involved in this organization.
Alors j'ai vraiment prié.
So I started to pray about that.
Et rien ne s'est passé.
Nothing happened.
Rien.
Nothing.
Et des mois plus tard,
And a few months after that,
alors que je ne m'y attendais pas,
while I was not expecting this,
le Seigneur me dit, dans 2 ans, tu retourneras en France.
the Lord spoke to me and told me that in 2 years you are going back to France, to Paris.
Ah, j'ai dit, ah non, retourner en France, ah non.
I said, no, I'm not going back to France.
Ah non, là-bas, c'est des fous.
I said, no, people in
Ah
France
non,
are
non,
crazy.
ici, je suis bien.
No, in Switzerland here, I'm well.
On a tout ici.
I have everything.
Et je le dis à ma femme.
And I mentioned this to my wife.
Oh, elle me dit, c'est ça, c'est ça. Tu
My
passes
wife
par
said,
une
no.
mauvaise passe.
My wife said, no, maybe you are not well. That's why you are thinking this.
Et c'est revenu.
And then this thought really came back to me again.
Alors là, j'ai vraiment prié.
And then I decided to really pray about this.
Et j'ai dit, Seigneur, parce que j'ai donné ma démission,
And I told the Lord, because I gave my resigning letter to this organization I was working with
sans
at the
avoir
time,
de réponse,
without getting any answer,
sans avoir de de lieu où aller, de proposition.
without any certainty for the future. At that time, I did not know where I should go.
Tout le monde s'est moqué.
And at that time, because I gave my resigning letter, all the other pastors, all the other leaders, they mocked me.
Alors j'ai beaucoup prié.
So because of that, I decided to pray even more.
Et j'ai dit ceci.
And I mentioned the following to the Lord.
Seigneur, si dans les 7 jours qui viennent, tu ne me donnes pas une réponse avec une proposition, tu laisses tomber.
I said to the Lord, if you do not give me a proposal or information within the 7 next days, then I will forget about this plan of going back to France and to Paris.
Et au 6e jour,
And on the 6th day,
je reçois une lettre de Paul Benassia.
I received a letter from Paul Genassia, who was in Paris at that time.
Et il me dit, est-ce que tu ne veux pas reprendre le centre messianique?
And in this letter, he said, do you want to take over my position that is in the Keilah of Paris?
Il y avait 10 ans de rupture.
And as I mentioned, I was in Switzerland for 10 years. So during these 10 years, I did not really have a strong contact with Paul Genassia.
J'ai piétiné la lettre.
So I took the letter and I just stepped on it.
Je l'ai jeté contre les murs.
And I threw it on the wall.
Et j'ai dit à ma femme, jamais là-bas. Jamais je n'irai à Paris
And
au bord de la Seine.
And I mentioned to my wife openly, I told her, never I would go back to Paris to this Keilah.
Là, j'ai le lac de Neuchâtel.
Because here in Switzerland, I have all the different lakes and all the beautiful places.
À un quart d'heure, j'ai les montagnes.
15 minutes drive, I have the nice mountains, nice
Qu'est-ce que je vais aller
landscape.
faire là-bas?
Why should I go back to Paris, central Paris?
Tous les théologiens que je connaissais qui voulaient que je reprenne voilà, un certain nombre de choses,
And all the theologians at that time, all the experts I was working with,
ils m'ont dit, non, tu vas pas aller chez les messianiques.
they told me, no, don't go to the Messianics.
Et je leur ai dit, pourquoi?
I said, why not?
Pourquoi ça vous dérange?
Why? Do you have any problem with that?
Vous allez bien en Côte d'Ivoire,
You on your side, you go to Africa, to Ivory Coast,
vous allez bien en Chine, là-bas et tout.
you go to China, to all those countries.
Quel est le problème par rapport à Israël?
What is the problem with Israel?
Ah, écoute, ils sont pas bibliques.
They told me, listen, they are not really biblical.
What?
I said, what?
Et je leur ai dit, écoutez, il y a un truc qui va pas.
And then I told them, there's something wrong.
Tout à coup, je devenais un problème.
And all of a sudden, I started to become a problem.
On a commencé à se moquer en disant, il va mettre les papillotes, il va...
They started to mock at me and said that I will have the payouts and I will look like an Orthodox Jew and everything.
J'avais aidé beaucoup de ces pasteurs avec leurs épouses dans leurs problèmes.
And
et
you know,
autres.
I remember that during this period of 10 years when I was there, I helped a lot these pastors with their wives, they went through problems and difficulties. I helped them a lot.
Quand ils ont su que je voulais vraiment aller là,
But the moment they got to know that I wanted to go back to France, to the Keilah, the Messianic Keilah,
tout le monde, sans exception, m'a lâché.
everybody, without exception, they just forsake me.
Et là, ça m'a parlé.
And through that, I realized something.
Est-ce que c'est parce que j'étais juif,
And I started to wondering, is that because I'm
que je
Jew?
voulais aller vers mon peuple, témoigner?
Because as a Jew, I wanted to go back
Quel
to my
était
people
leur
and
problème?
testify. I did not understand the problem that these people have.
La plupart, j'ai vécu des colloques théologiques avec eux.
Because with most of these people, I had really strong studies, strong conferences in the Christian seminaries.
À construire même des fois leur assemblée, à les développer.
I helped them also to build their congregations.
Et j'ai dit, mais où est le problème?
And I did not understand what was the problem, what was wrong with them.
Alors on est venu à Paris.
Then, so I moved to Paris.
Ce changement de passer de l'Église ou de la pensée, du fonctionnement théologique chrétien,
This change, it's a huge change, moving from the Christian way of doing things and the Christian environment,
et revenir à mes propres racines
and going back to my own roots,
a été un cheminement
this was a long way
qui a été important.
that was really important.
Je vous parle maintenant avec plus de 25 ans d'expérience à ce niveau-là.
And now I'm talking with more than 25 years of experience regarding this,
J'ai repris un héritage.
because it's true, I took over the position of Paul Genassia, and this was like an inheritance,
Qui avait commencé à ouvrir la voie.
because this was the beginning to open the way.
Et je me trouvais avec des juifs et des non-juifs.
And at that time, so when I took over this position, there were people like from Jewish background and from non-Jewish background.
Et j'avais à l'intérieur beaucoup de non-juifs.
And as I mentioned, there were a lot of non-Jewish people also in the Keilah.
Qui voulaient bien entendre l'enseignement d'Israël.
And these people at that time, they were really happy with the teaching of Israel.
Mais quand on allait un petit peu plus loin,
But then when I decided to go a little bit deeper,
on me disait,
people told me,
c'est trop juif.
no, this is too Jewish.
Je ne veux pas devenir juif.
I don't want to become Jewish.
C'est pas pour moi.
No, this is not for me.
Alors, je vous dis tout cela parce que ce cheminement n'a pas été évident pour construire la Keilah que nous sommes aujourd'hui.
And the reason why I'm mentioning all of those things is for you to realize that what you see today of the Keilah is the result that was not something easy. It was a long way.
Pour bien raccrocher avec mes racines,
And also to be able to go back to my roots.
j'ai repris mes études juives.
It's true that, again, I decided to go to a seminary,
Et j'ai fait 7 ans
to a Jewish seminary for 7
d'études
years.
rabbiniques.
It was a rabbinical seminary for 7 years.
Et j'étais toujours confronté, je pense que Gianni parfois doit être confronté à cela, à quelque chose qui veut aller plus loin, puis une autre partie qui dit non.
And so in my Keilah, I faced this situation a lot, and maybe Gianni, this is also a situation you are facing. There are some people who want to go deeper, and there are some people who don't want to go deeper.
Et souvent on écoute plus la partie qui dit non,
And sometimes we have this tendency where we are going to listen to the group who say, oh no, I don't want to go deeper,
que celle qui dit oui.
rather than listening to the other group
Vous
who
pouvez
really
dire,
want to go
le
deeper.
Seigneur veut que nous allions dans cette orientation.
You may say that the Lord wants us to go in that particular direction.
Les interpellations de Dieu étaient claires pour moi.
And for me, the way God was acting was clear.
Il fallait construire la Keilah des temps de la fin,
It was to be able to build the Keilah for the end times,
qui inclut des juifs et des non-juifs.
including Jews and non-Jews.
Et en même temps, construire une pensée
And at the same time, to be able to build a mindset,
mais également qui supprime, qui annule la théologie de la substitution.
and also something that would at the same time remove and delete the theology of substitution. Sorry.
Et donc, ça a été quelque chose où il y a eu beaucoup d'affrontements.
And because of that, we have a lot of conflicts, internal conflicts.
Je vais vous donner un exemple.
Let me give you an example.
Lorsqu'à un moment donné, parce que Paul Genassia faisait aussi un peu la Belgique, il faisait le dimanche à Paris.
So, because Paul Genassia was also managing the Keilah that was in Brussels at that time, so in Paris, he used to do the office on Sunday.
Je n'ai pas hérité du Shabbat.
For me, what I received from him as a Keilah was not a Keilah that was a gathering on Shabbat.
Les gens avaient l'habitude du dimanche.
People who are used to gathering on Sunday.
Il n'y a pas de liturgie,
There was no liturgy at that time,
il n'y a rien.
nothing.
Ça convenait à tout le monde.
And everyone was happy with that.
Et à un moment donné,
And then I decided,
le Seigneur me dit, voilà, tu veux mettre le Shabbat.
and then the Lord spoke to me and told me that now you should return to the Shabbat.
Vous pensez que ça s'est passé très bien?
Do you think that people really welcome this news with great joy?
Que les gens sont venus m'embrasser?
That people came and just took me, hugged me.
Ils sont venus,
They came,
des fois plusieurs dans le bureau,
either they came alone or in a group.
et ils m'ont dit, si tu fais ça, nous partons.
They told me, if you do that, we will leave the Keilah.
D'autres disaient, si tu fais ça, on ne donne plus notre dîme.
And another group said, oh, if you do that, we will stop giving our tithes.
Je leur ai dit, je m'en fous.
I said, I don't care.
J'ai perdu 40 personnes.
And at that time, because of that decision, 40 people decided to leave the Keilah.
D'un seul coup, ça fait un vide.
And you can imagine when you have a Keilah, you remove 40 people, it creates a void.
Et on me disait, mais pourquoi ils sont partis?
And then people are asked, why did this group decided to leave?
La première chose, ils rejetaient le Shabbat.
The first reason is because they rejected the Shabbat.
Tu peux parler du Shabbat,
They said, you can talk about the Shabbat.
dire tout ce que tu veux de beau dessus,
Yeah, you can talk about the Shabbat. You can say whatever you want about the Shabbat.
mais quand il faut faire Shabbat, c'est plus pareil.
But the moment we have to practice the Shabbat, it's another story.
Alors, j'ai dit OK.
I said, okay.
Il y a même des juifs messianiques de plusieurs endroits
And there were also other Messianic Jews coming from other places.
qui sont venus me voir.
They came to see me.
Et ils m'ont dit, Emmanuel, tu es fou.
They told me, Emmanuel, you are crazy.
Tu vas te casser la figure.
You are going to...
Tout le monde est en train de dire dans toutes les assemblées à Paris que tu perds la boule.
You are going to go against the wall. Many people in the different churches, in the different congregations, they say you are becoming crazy.
Que tu dévies.
They say that, yeah, you are becoming crazy. You are just off the way.
Je leur ai dit, le Seigneur m'a dit de continuer d'enseigner.
And I told them that the Lord told me that I have to continue in this way.
Et j'ai persévéré.
And that's why I decided to continue in this way.
Le chiffre a augmenté.
And then we
Les gens venaient.
had an increase in the Keilah. There are more people who joined the Keilah after that.
Des non-juifs qui étaient beaucoup plus ouverts et qui acceptaient le Shabbat.
And there were more and more non-Jews who were really happy about the Shabbat. They were really open to the topic of the Shabbat and practicing the Shabbat.
Et plus on a voulu aller dans la ligne d'Israël,
And the more we wanted to really join the line of Israel, the mind of Israel,
où on en a beaucoup parlé avec Rabbi Shapira,
and we also had a lot of discussion about this with Rabbi Shapira,
c'était pas évident.
and this was not easy.
Et je pense que Steven se souvient avec Priscilla
And maybe Stephen and Priscilla
des
remember that,
difficultés
the issues that we had at that time,
lorsqu'on voulait aller plus loin en mettant l'office de Shabbat.
when we decided to really have a Shabbat service.
Tout à coup, des gens qui étaient là depuis 10, 15, 20 ans
All of a sudden, the people who were a member of the Keilah for 10, 15 years,
m'ont dit,
they told me,
si tu prends cette ligne,
if you follow this way,
nous quitterons.
we are going to leave the Keilah.
Et nous dirons à tout le monde
And not only will we leave the Keilah, but we will also tell people,
que tu es en train de dévier.
we will tell people openly that you are just,
Device. Bring division.
no, you are leaving the way.
Ah.
You are departing from the right way.
Et à partir de là,
And from that moment,
il y a eu le Covid.
then the COVID
Plusieurs
came.
temps après. Hein.
So it's a few years after that.
Et quand il y a eu le Covid, j'ai dit, on reprend direct avec l'Office Torah.
And after the COVID, when there was the reopening of the Keilah, I said we will start with the Shabbat service.
On en a perdu une quinzaine, une vingtaine.
Maybe 15, maybe 20 people decided to leave the Keilah.
Alors, je te dis ça, Gianni,
Johnny, I'm mentioning this
parce que des oppositions, il y en aura toujours.
because I know that opposition will always
Et
face
des accords, il y
opposition.
en aura toujours.
Disagreements will always
Ce que tu
face.
dois avoir, c'est l'autorité de Dieu pour conduire.
But what you need to
Diriger.
have is the authority of
Et-
God to lead.
C'est l'obéissance qui amènera la bénédiction.
And it's the obedience that will bring
J'ai beaucoup
blessing.
pleuré.
I cried a lot
J'ai-
in my life.
J'ai beaucoup eu d'interrogations à l'intérieur de mon cœur.
I had a lot of questions inside of me.
Parfois, je me disais, mais c'est pas le bon créneau.
Sometimes I was doubting and I was saying maybe it's not the right time, it's not the right environment.
Et j'étais très découragé.
And I was really discouraged at some point.
Heureusement, j'avais une femme formidable.
But it's a good thing because I had a really
Retiens ça,
wonderful
t'es
wife.
là.
But I know this is the case also of your wife.
Elle me disait toujours, t'as pas le droit.
And my wife used to be telling me,
T'as pas le droit de
you
lâcher.
you cannot leave.
Ah,
You
mais je vais
cannot-
partir là-bas.
And I used to say, oh, I want to go to another place.
Non,
No,
t'as pas le droit.
you don't have the right to leave, to quit.
Et tout ce qui aurait dû détruire cette assemblée
And all the things that were like a threat for the Keilah, to destroy the Keilah, to devise the Keilah,
a vécu un bouleversement. Parce que Dieu bénit celui qui l'appelle.
oh, tu peux répéter la phrase, j'ai loupé une
Ah.
partie, excuse-moi.
On aurait dû vivre un bouleversement
Mhm.
négatif. Hein.
So because of this threat coming from these people, normally, in a normal situation, we should have been really in a bad situation regarding the Keilah.
Mais Dieu se souvient de ceux qu'il appelle.
The Keilah should have been shaken, but God always remembered those who are called by Him.
J'ai un principe aujourd'hui.
I have a very strong principle.
C'est pas les membres
It's not the members
qui peuvent venir me dire,
who can come and tell me the following.
je veux bien écouter,
Oh yes, I agree with that.
je veux bien peser le pour et le contre,
Yeah, I'm willing to really wait and see what is good and what is not good.
mais ils ne dirigent pas.
But they are not the one who lead.
Alors, aujourd'hui,
Today,
il est vrai que parfois, on a des gens qui aimeraient que,
it's true that we have people that who have some wishes, who would like to have this and that and do it this way and another way.
Et maintenant, le dernier créneau que je me fixe,
And now the next step of my life
c'est d'établir à l'intérieur de la Keilah
is to establish inside of the Keilah
la compréhension juive de ce qu'est une synagogue messianique,
to have a real understanding of what is the structure of a messianic synagogue, how it should be run.
un maître qui n'a pas de fils ne sert à rien.
A master who doesn't have any sons, this is not profitable to him.
Un maître qui a des fils,
A master who has sons,
il donne la continuité du futur.
that's how he can transmit and give the continuity or the vision for the future.
Il transmet.
He is going to give, he's going to transmit something.
Et après ces 25 ans,
And after these 25 years,
où ça a été quand même des moments difficiles,
I can say that throughout these years it was quite difficult.
nous avions 4 ans, enfin on a toujours 4 enfants,
So I had 4 children and I still have 4 children.
et il fallait faire face.
But you know, with the children, I had to face all these situations.
Gianni, aujourd'hui,
Johnny, today,
ceux qui sont à la Keilah, pour la plupart,
most of the people who are in the Keilah,
quand ils viennent, ils adhèrent direct.
when they come, they really adhere to the mindset and
S'ils
everything.
ne veulent pas, il y a ailleurs.
People who don't want to follow, they can
Vis
go
ta
to
vie,
another place.
suis ton chemin,
If someone wants to go
ne
in
viens pas
another
barrer la
place,
route.
just go in another place. Don't come here to be an obstacle.
Et C'est vrai que c'est dur de construire parce que les systèmes de pensée diffèrent aujourd'hui.
And it's true that it's not easy to really create something, to build something, because the way people think is really different.
Il y en a qui sont très Chabad dans leur pratique.
In their practice, there are some people that are really Chabad.
J'ai beau lui dire, pourquoi? Je suis pas juif.
Even if I ask them why you want to do this Chabad thing, you're not Jewish, why do you want to do it?
Il est formidable,
And this person is
sont
really
formidables.
wonderful. They are wonderful,
mais je ne sais pas où je vais aller avec.
but I don't know where I'm going with that.
Mais on n'est pas opposés.
But we are not in a opposition or in a kind of war.
Nous pouvons accepter la diversité.
I think diversity is also a good thing. We can accept it.
Mais
But
les fils suivront le Père.
the sons will follow the father.
Les autres prendront des autres voies,
The others will follow other ways.
réussiront peut-être,
Maybe they will succeed in their ways,
mais c'est pas sûr.
but this is not sure.
Parce que la bracha
Because the blessing that we give,
elle conditionne le futur.
this is like the condition for the future.
Elle a une puissance.
And there's a power in the bracha, in the blessing.
Aujourd'hui, j'en ai quelques-uns ici
Today, and I have some here,
où on forme, et c'est ce qu'il te faut, Gianni, à côté, ce qu'il te faut, c'est une équipe de gens qui sont loyaux.
and I have some people who are here. We are like a team, like the core of the Canaan. I think, Johnny, this is what you need: a team, a core team that is going to be around you,
Qui vont t'accompagner,
who will be around you to help you, to be with you, along with you,
te soutenir.
to give you support.
Et derrière, nous sommes là.
And also, on top of that, we are here
Aider,
to help,
encourager.
to encourage.
Quand j'étais à Paris, j'étais tout seul. Personne. Le mouvement messianique n'était pas vraiment construit. Il n'y avait rien.
When I took over the leadership of the Keilah, I was all alone because the Messianic movement in the French-speaking world was there was nothing, and I had to build everything.
Aujourd'hui, la vision se construit réellement.
Today, we can see the building of this vision.
Et je dois dire que quand on en arrive à ce niveau-là,
And I have to say that when we reach this point,
on se détend.
we are more relaxed inside of us.
Et en même temps,
And at the same time,
il faut voir que nous construisons le futur au travers de ce que nous donnerons et de ce que nous laisserons.
and we need to realize that we will, this will be a kind of building for the future through
Mashiach
what we give, through what we teach.
a voulu que tu sois là,
And I think it's the will of Mashiach for you to be here
avec ce nom,
with this name,
Beit Tikkun.
Beit Tikkun.
C'est pas n'importe quoi.
This is not, this is something important.
C'est la maison de la réparation.
This is the house of the reparation, of the fixing.
Réparer
When we have to repair,
en tant que non-juif,
as a non-Jew,
réparer quelque chose qui s'est cassé avec la maison d'Israël.
to repair something that was broken with the house of Israel.
Ce n'est pas de devenir plus juif que juif,
It's not that we want to become more Jewish than the Jews themselves,
mais c'est de comprendre le rôle qui vous est assigné.
but is to understand the role that we all have.
Et au travers de cela,
And through that,
c'est de réaliser ce que vous devez faire aussi dans les relations.
and it's also realizing what you have to do in the relationship.
Nous parlerons demain d'un sujet avec les termes hébreux
Tomorrow we are going to talk about a very important topic with the Hebrew words,
qui vont être puissants.
something that is
Très
going to be powerful, very powerful.
Et ce soir, je suis parti un peu dans un sens que je n'avais pas prévu.
And tonight, what I said was not really something that I
Mais il te
thought
faut des
about
fils,
before.
Gianni.
But as I mentioned, you need to have sons.
Pas des personnes qui veulent des postes.
Not people who
qui veulent des
want to have
responsabilités, des
leadership
honneurs.
or to be responsible in the Keilah, or to be people who want to be seen and everything.
Stephen et Priscilla, et une grande partie aussi Willy,
Stephen, Priscilla, and also Willie.
on veut que jamais je n'ai nommé ni pris quelqu'un avec moi rapidement. Ça a mis longtemps.
They know that before putting someone in a position in the Keilah, it's not something that I do quickly. It takes time.
Il faut tester le cœur.
Because we have to test the
Et
heart
derrière, voir si ça va correspondre.
in order to be able to see whether there'll be a kind of cohesion that is going to be made out of this relationship.
Je vais juste conclure avec ça.
And I would like to conclude with the following.
J'ai effectivement aujourd'hui beaucoup de joie dans ce que je suis, dans ce que je fais. Je pense que vous le ressentez.
And it's true that today I have a lot of joy in what I do and what I am. And I think the people from the Keilah can also feel it. They say yes.
Mais ça n'a pas toujours été le cas.
And this was not always the case in the past.
Et nous devons porter beaucoup de souffrance avec le temps.
It's true that because along with time we have to carry a lot of sufferings,
Beaucoup de rejets,
a lot of rejections,
beaucoup de critiques,
a lot of critics,
beaucoup d'opposition,
a lot of oppositions,
beaucoup de paroles qui sont du lashon hara mauvaises.
a lot of lashon hara, evil words.
Atteindre ta dignité,
Sometimes that words that are going to go or to touch your own dignity,
atteindre ce que tu es comme responsable.
and also words that can touch also what you are as a leader, as a responsible person.
Mais il y a une chose,
But there's one thing.
il faut traverser tout cela.
We have to go through all of this.
Et après,
And after,
il y a quelque chose qui va s'ouvrir.
there's something that is going to be open.
Il ne faut pas regarder aux souffrances,
We should not consider and look at the
à ce que les gens ont
sufferings,
dit,
what people
à
said
ceux
in the
qui nous ont
past,
quittés,
or also consider those who
au
left,
mal qu'ils nous ont fait.
and also all the hurt and all the harm things that they did.
Je vais peut-être dire quelque chose,
I'm going to say something.
j'hésite un peu,
I hesitate a lot to mention what I want to mention.
mais il est clair que nous pouvons vivre beaucoup de ruptures.
It's true that can be a lot of breakings, a lot of separations in the relationships.
On marche ensemble
It's true we are together,
et tout à coup,
and all of a sudden, boom, nothing.
et je sais que vous en avez souffert.
And I know that as a Keilah, you went through those type of things.
Aujourd'hui, Gianni, la rupture, elle est là-bas.
But today, Johnny, you need to consider all these separations there in the past.
Ce qui est important, c'est que tu ailles là-bas,
What is really important is for you to go forward.
pas que tu ailles là-bas.
You should not go backward.
Et que les gens restent là-bas.
And people should not stay backward.
La guérison, ça va être là.
The healing is here
Pour pouvoir aller là-bas.
in order to move forward.
Et la semaine dernière, il y avait une paracha très intéressante
And last week we had this parasha that was really interesting,
où tout le monde doit comprendre quel est le rôle d'un rav, quel est le rôle d'un leader dans une assemblée.
where people should really understand what is the role of a rabbi, the role of a leader, the role of a responsible person in the Keilah.
Il faut sortir des modèles de l'Église, de la théologie,
We need to forget and to come out of the Christian models
où vous avez un modèle du fonctionnement pastoral.
where we consider only the pastor, the model of a pastor.
Où il a des devoirs,
It's true, a pastor
des
has to do
obligations,
things. He has to do things.
parce qu'il est payé.
He has obligations because he is paid for that.
C'est faux.
No, this is false.
C'est faux.
This is false.
Il construit une communauté
Because a true pastor, a true leader, a true responsible person is going to
qui prie,
build up a community that prays,
agit.
that acts.
Ce que vous voyez d'Israël,
And what you see from Israel,
un petit pays
a small country
montre presque une supériorité à l'Amérique au niveau des impôts.
a people, a country that shows things that are better, superior to countries like
Même le
America.
Liban. Il frappe même le Liban, le Hezbollah.
They are waging a war against the Hezbollah, against Lebanon.
Alors, quel est le secret?
What is the secret?
C'est Israël,
Israel,
petite terre,
a small piece of land
qui a été attaquée depuis le 7 octobre.
that has been attacked since the 7th of October.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
What happened?
Quand Israël n'a pas été uni,
When Israel was not united,
il s'est affaibli.
it became weaker.
Il a commencé à se battre à l'intérieur.
There was like a struggle, but inside of Israel.
Il ne voyait plus où était l'ennemi.
They could not consider the position of the enemy.
Et à ce moment-là, comme Amalek, il attaque.
And the same way we see about Amalek, that's
C'est quand il y a
when the
faiblesse.
attack arrived. And when they were weak,
Quand il y a eu la guerre du 7 octobre,
when we see the beginning of this war on the 7th of October,
il est vrai que tout à coup,
it's true that all of a sudden,
il y a eu une réaction.
there was a reaction.
Même ceux qui étaient dans le gouvernement contre l'un et contre l'autre,
Even those among the government of Israel who were against the other,
se sont unis
they get together
contre l'ennemi.
against the enemy.
Il faut toujours savoir où est l'ennemi.
We always have to know where is located our enemy.
Et c'est là qu'ils ont gagné.
And that's how they could have the victory.
Bien sûr que c'est un drame, tout ce qui se
It's
passe.
true, this is really sad, it's really bad.
Et en même temps, c'est une libération.
At the same time, it's a kind of freedom.
Aujourd'hui, tout le monde est content qu'il y ait des frappes sur l'Iran.
It's true today, everyone is happy because Iran is being attacked.
À l'époque de la guerre des 12 jours,
Last year, when there was this war of 12 days,
tout le monde condamnait Israël.
everyone was against Israel.
Et aujourd'hui, ils sont contents.
But today, they are all happy
Parce que eux font le travail que tous les autres ne veulent pas.
because Israel is doing a job that no
Quelle est-
one
Quelle
wants
est la
to
leçon?
do.
Savoir s'unir contre l'ennemi et pas se battre à l'intérieur.
What do we have to understand from that? We need to be together to be against the enemy.
L'ennemi, il n'est pas à l'intérieur.
Not the enemy that is inside,
Il est dans l'antisémitisme, il est dans toutes sortes d'autres choses.
but the enemy that is outside. Anti-Semitism is outside in different shape, in different forms.
Aujourd'hui,
Today,
je voudrais vous dire que demain, on aura un message puissant sur la guérison.
I would like to tell you that tomorrow we will have a very powerful message about healing.
Mais il faut voir où on a mal.
But we need to consider where is our hurt.
Où la Keila, d'ici, a mal.
Where are the hurt of the Keilah?
Quel est le niveau de sa douleur?
What is the level of the pain?
Et derrière, quel est le cheminement pour guérir?
And also we need to consider the way to receive or to get healed.
Quel investissement on va avoir pour amener cette guérison?
What type of investment we should make in order to receive this healing?
Alors, je vous ai parlé comme cela, cœur ouvert,
So I really talk to you tonight with an open heart
parce que vous formez un peu le groupe le plus engagé,
because from my perspective, you are like the people who are most really those who are really committed inside the Keilah of Beit Tikkun,
sur lequel Gianni compte,
and also the people on which Gianni is really relying
où
upon,
il a besoin de vous.
and he needs you, he needs your support.
Mais comme disait la paracha de la semaine dernière, il a besoin qu'on l'aide
But
dans ses tâches.
as we saw in the parasha of last week, Gianni needs to be to receive help in the different things that he has to do.
Construisez ensemble.
You need to build together.
Sachez tracer un chemin,
You need to create a way to have a way together,
un plan d'action.
to have an action plan together.
Ne partez pas dans tous les sens pour faire plaisir aux gens.
Don't go in all the directions just to please people.
Et vous verrez le résultat.
And that's how you are going to see the result.
Je vais juste prier.
I just want to pray to conclude this part.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Avinu malkeinu. Je veux te bénir parce que ce temps est marqué dans ton temps.
I want to bless you, Lord, because this time is marked inside of your own time.
Je te demande que ce moment
I pray that this moment, this time,
soit également un baume,
might be like a balm,
une guérison,
a healing,
qui donne un nouveau départ,
something that will give a new future,
qui sépare le passé du futur.
something that will create a separation between the past and the
Que
future.
dans ce temps, dans le nom de Yeshua,
And in the name of Yeshua, may this time
il y ait l'œuvre de ta Ruach HaKodesh
be a time for the work of your Ruach HaKodesh.
et que tu élèves ton nom.
And may your name be elevated.
Que la Keila des gentils des nations,
And let this Keilah with the Gentiles,
greffée sur Israël,
with those who are grafted in Israel,
devienne un modèle.
let this Keilah become a model.
Même s'il est rejeté
Even if this model is rejected by people
à cause des différentes théologies,
because of the different theology and beliefs,
des désirs,
because of the desires, different desires,
construis la Keila de la fin des temps pour ta venue.
I pray that this Keilah will be built for the end times, for your coming.
Apporte la guérison dans le couple de Gianni
Also bring healing in Gianni and his wife,
et que vraiment, Seigneur, tu puisses intervenir
so that you may also work mightily
dans tous les domaines de leur vie.
in all the different aspects of their lives.
Merci de ce que tu vas faire
Thank you for all what you are going to do.
dans le nom de
In
Yeshua
the
Mashiach.
name of Yeshua Mashiach.
Amen et Amen.
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 Thank you, Rav Emmanuel, for the beautiful words and encouragement.
Merci beaucoup, Rav Emmanuel, pour ces belles paroles d'encouragement.
We're gonna have together dinner.
On va avoir un dîner ensemble.
So we go upstairs to have dinner together. So we have time to know each other better, to have community with each other.
Donc le dîner aura lieu juste, vous prenez cette porte et c'est vraiment un temps pour échanger, pour parler, pour être ensemble,
Amen.
pour faire connaissance.
I think that this is the first step of a beautiful birth of Shuvu Europe.
Et je pense que c'est véritablement une étape importante pour la naissance de Shuvu Europe, c'est-à-dire quelque chose qui va véritablement continuer.
Why? It's true, like Rav said, we need all healing,
C'est vrai, comme l'a dit le Rav Emmanuel, on a tous besoin de cette guérison,
but we need also each other.
mais on a aussi besoin les uns des autres.
We need friends to help us,
On a besoin d'avoir
friends.
on a besoin que la France nous aide.
And we want also to help you guys in the future with things, but to be together.
Mais aussi, peut-être qu'à l'avenir, nous aussi, en tant que Keila, on aimerait pouvoir vous aider aussi dans le futur, d'une manière ou d'une autre.
I don't believe in one-man show.
Moi, je ne crois pas dans les one-man shows.
The people who really know me,
Les gens qui me connaissent vraiment,
I don't care if I sit here or there.
moi, vous savez, que je sois là ou assis, c'est pas ça.
I prefer to be together,
Je préfère qu'on soit tous ensemble.
like I forgot the name of my brother there.
Comme Steven.
Steven, yes. Sorry, Steven.
Désolé, Steven.
Like Steven come saying, do the bracha. We are together in this
Comme
thing.
par exemple, Steven, il est venu, il a fait les brachot. On est tous ensemble dans ça.
We learn from each other. I
On
learn
a-
from Steven.
J'apprends de Steven. On apprend les uns des autres.
We learn from each other.
On apprend des uns des autres.
There is no one who is bigger or taller than the other
Il n'y en a
one.
pas un qui est plus grand que l'autre.
You know, we are all
On
together.
est tous ensemble.
And on the end,
Et au final,
we are going together to Israel.
et en fait, on va ensemble vers Israël.
And this is powerful.
Et ça, c'est puissant.
This is powerful, that we can walk with each other without thinking I'm better or bigger than the other one.
Et en fait, ça, je crois que c'est vraiment puissant parce que d'être capable de se dire qu'on est ensemble, qu'on marche ensemble, sans penser que je suis plus grand ou plus important que l'autre.
And this is the unity that Israel has now.
Et je crois que c'est aussi l'unité qu'a Israël aujourd'hui.
And this is the power who also beat the enemy, Amalek, on the end.
Et je crois que c'est cette puissance qui permet d'avoir la victoire sur Amalek.
Because how more that we are divided inside and think that we are better than the other one, how more Amalek can laugh and come inside.
Car plus on va penser qu'on est plus grand que l'autre, plus on va être divisé à l'intérieur de nous, et plus cela va donner de la place à Amalek pour rentrer à l'intérieur.
So I'm really blessed.
Donc je suis vraiment béni.
And I'm looking forward to what Hashem gonna do tomorrow and also the next coming time.
Je suis vraiment impatient de voir ce qu'Hachem va faire demain et aussi dans un futur très proche.
Amen.
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 Okay, I'm gonna start.